Hi, welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a B-movie review. Today we're going to be looking at one of the ultimate B-movies, Battle Beyond the Stars by Roger Corman. So this was a response to the Star Wars film when it came out. Obviously Roger Corman wanted to jump on the bandwagon and make his own version, so he made this, which is essentially a retelling of Magnificent Seven, which is itself a retelling of Seven Samurai, of course. Now what you've got here is essentially Magnificent Seven in space. Essentially is the same story, sometimes even the same character if we're looking at Robert Vaughn. So the main protagonist is played by Richard Thomas as a character called Chad, and his home world is invaded by John Saxon's character, who is threatening to essentially destroy the planet, and the indigenous people have no form of defence. So Chad basically goes off to find mercenaries to essentially defend the planet. So he comes across, each of the other characters, and they're the real strength of the film. I have to say, I think Richard Thomas is quite a bland central figure, and his female leaders as well. This is the main problem I have with this film. Now, obviously, we're going to be looking at it with a kind of a B-movie sensibility, so I don't expect it to really sort of rival any mainstream films. But Richard Thomas is not a particularly good leading man, I would argue, and I think he is a fairly bland and sort of vanilla hero. But his cohorts more than make up for it. Well, you've got George Peppard as a sort of washed-up space cowboy. I've already mentioned Robert Vaughn, who kind of reprises his role as a sort of the lone gunslinger in Magnificent Seven, and essentially here he's playing virtually the same character, kind of a criminal who kind of lives on his own and doesn't really have the sort of social skills necessarily. You've also got a variety of different aliens, and you have a buxom Amazon warrior played by Sybil Danning. I was going to say Sybil Shepherd then. So it really follows the same story as I've mentioned. They all get together and essentially defend the planet, and that's really it. I mean, you have the little sort of segments where he's sort of meeting each of the warriors and their kind of little sort of story that they have with them. But the main thrust of the plot is essentially them defending against the sort of the evil fleet. Now, what is good about the film is, there's lots of different spaceships. They're all different shapes and sizes. I've mentioned that Richard Thomas's character isn't very good, I don't think, but his actual ship is pretty good as a character itself. And if you may have heard it referred to as the Moosehead ship, because it kind of resembles a moose head, and it has its own sort of AI personality, which is a sort of a little bit sort of protective and almost a little bit psychotic, really, and that's quite good. It's its character in its own right. But the special effects, obviously done on a much smaller budget. I think the budget was $2 million, and it's quite good. You've got a score by Richard Horner, which is really rousing, and he's obviously gone on to done bigger and better things. But it's a really fun film. I actually genuinely like this film. I think you can watch it and just really sort of enjoy it. And I think if you like Star Wars and you like that type of film, you probably will get a kick out of this. Yes, it's a bit of a rip-off, but it's a good one. A lot of this footage was lifted for other Roger Corman films sort of later on down the line, and so it kind of has got sort of watered down a little bit. But the characters are all, apart from the main characters, the rest of the supporting cast I think are really fun. They're obviously really enjoying themselves. I can recommend it. There's some good action, lots of space battles. There's a little bit of kind of like of ground combat, but it's actually I will say the laser effects are a little bit crappy. If you notice, they just sort of put on afterwards, and they don't really look like they're coming out of the guns and things. So that's a little bit sloppy there. But obviously this is an older film, but maybe a little bit of attention to detail, a bit rough around the edges. But I really liked it. It's one of my favourite B movies. You go into it knowing it's a B movie, you'll come out liking it. I pretty much promise you that. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. Let me know what you think. What's your kind of, obviously aside from Star Wars and whatnot, what are your favourite sort of space opera type films? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time.